right, here we go. Here we go. We are live. Check, check. 1, 2, 3. Oh, everything looks good over here. All right. So it is Friday, December 12th. We're trading NASDAQ futures. We got about 6 minutes until the open. Yeah, before we dive into that, just to let you know, Apex is having their fun coupon sale, is what I call it. It only happens a couple times a year. Their accounts are discounted 90% off, so you can get accounts for like $19 each right now, which is just an amazingly good deal. You won't find a cheaper funded account to trade with. So no matter the size of the account, 50K, 250K, they're 19 bucks. And then the other thing is, this is the best sale I've seen in a few years. Their activation fee's been reduced. So I forget what the exact number is, but you can, I think, activate the account for like 50 bucks or something, which means you can get a funded account for like 69 bucks. So if you're interested in trading with other people's money, there's a link below to Apex's site and sale. You can use my code BJT on checkout. Supporting my small channel obviously would be more than greatly appreciated. And yeah, I use Apex. There's all the accounts up there. And I like them. I think their rules are fair and are pretty easy to work with. So that said, what do we got for today? Today is interesting. I'm mixed. I have a bullish bias overall, but I'm not convinced that NQ is not done being a little unruly. If we look like at the higher time frames, we can see that, YM over here is just moving very nicely. We can see even ES is moving nicer. We're just getting some nice expansion to both sides. And if we look at, whereas NQ is just more so sideways here on the daily, we've created this volume imbalance. And that kind of makes me feel a little more bullish on the session. And we look at the 4-hour chart, we can still see similar things. YM is just expanding relentlessly. ES is at least making, okay market structure now. It kind of came out of this consolidation, broke the consolidation and started gapping upwards. So ES looks nicer. And over here, NQ is still just doing whatever this is. Basically a seek and destroy. And we have these equal highs up here, which is a nice target. We're coming down into discount, but there's so few things in discount here that I kind of can't. I'm hesitant to frame a reversal on NQ. There's this inversion, but it's old. We have this gap that's forming currently, abyssy. We did take, so this 2 a.m. candle is important, and the 6 a.m. candle took the 2 a.m. candle low. Gives me kind of an inclination of a potential for a reversal, combined with this gap up here. Makes me feel like it could at least come up into this zone. But we have these 2 large expansion candles on the 4-hour. So these are likely targets. When we get these large expansion candles, it likes to come for them again. There's lots of liquidity stacked above and below these. So when it comes to NQ, I can kind of see more so the coming for buy side, but I'm not ruling out sell side. On the 1-hour, I got this up here. It's just reminding me of kind of seek and destroy. Prices come down into the equilibrium of the previous week. There's no gaps or anything down in here, but we did form, this BISSY buy-side imbalance that it's unable to get through, whereas on ES, at least, it popped through it, turned it to an inversion. We have all this equal liquidity up in here. So if anything, it's like, I feel like today I'm looking at this and I'm like, I don't know if I want to trade NQ. But I don't trade the other assets. So I'm kind of conflicted on what I'm going to do. Part of it probably depends on what I see in the moment. And yeah, on the 15-minute chart. So 15-minute makes me feel bullish too. We have London lows taken at the 1/3 ADR, 1/3 of the average daily range. We have midnight open above. We have London high. We have Asia high. We have all these equal highs. We have a new day opening gap up here. Just nothing solid in terms of a level that I would typically use down in here. It's probably the only thing I got. Yeah, we're definitely down in discount, but I don't really rely on that as a level. I want a fair value gap. So yeah, 1 minute till open. Let's go over to the 1 minute chart. $12. Okay, there's the open. Coming aggressively for sell side liquidity. Back to the previous week's equilibrium, taking this liquidity down in here. So here's this manipulation up in here for further distribution. How far? I don't know. ES and YM are very overextended, so they could drag NQ down a ways, or especially YM. I'm gonna I'm all for keeping my risk lower today. It's Friday. I'm green on the week. I would like to keep it reasonably green. I'm not overly confident in this price action right here either. So if I do anything, it is going to be intentionally low risk. I know the last couple of trades have been lower leverage, lower risk, accidentally, which bummed me out. So I was kind of eyeballing it, seeing this mini breaker here. I don't like how it's being slow. YM looks like it wants to push down. There's a tailless candle right here. I just don't trust this, so I'm not going to take it. Don't trust. Not taking. Don't trust. No fair value gap. No higher time frame fair value gap. NQ week. I thought about going in with even just one contract to be in it, but I think it's not clear enough to me right here that I even want to go in on that. Although in my case, if I had gone in, almost 1R is these highs, so I'd be at break even right now. So here's a 2-minute inversion fair value gap, but we have this tailless candle down there. Part of the question is like, I use like equilibrium for a confluence, but I don't use it for a level. So like if there was a fair value gap plus equilibrium, then I would be extra interested. And I was thinking about, I read how the trades we don't take cost us more than the losses that we do take. And here's an example of, potentially an example of that, where it's like, I could have risked, call it 200 for on this trade to make 600, right? And the cost of, if this was a winner and I don't take it, the cost of not taking this trade is a $600 opportunity cost versus a $200 risk. And so I found that to be a quite interesting way to look at all this. However, I also have another experiment going where I'm documenting the B setups where I'm just not confident in them and whether or not they're viable to take. What's the win rate on them? And the win rate for me on B setups is low. It's like 30%. Super bad so far in the experiment. So I've kind of got conflicting pieces in there saying that I should be more liberal in taking trades which I can see here, at this point it'd be risk-free. But also that my B setups, or when I don't see things clearly, they don't tend to work out nearly as well as when I do see it clearly. What we can also see, price is not really wanting to move. There's no volatility behind this. YM is going sideways. ES is kind of grinding up along with NQ. The other alternative for this trade would have been actually pretty much a similar thing. I probably would have done that. So I'm not going to mark out the other alternative. All right, so I would have been stopped out, break even. So here's an example of where my intuition was at least right. My stop loss, if I had been in the trade not moving my stop loss yet, would have been below this candle body low. Candle body, not the low. That's what I typically use, the candle body below the inversion. Woo-wee. I'm yawning and I don't have any coffee. Was it 7? Is this the 8th week now? 7th week sober from coffee, from hardcore espresso. I made some strong stuff. This is my replacement is a rooibos chai tea. And I feel pretty good after. I would recommend for anyone drinking lots of coffee, if you're tired often, coffee is the problem. I found it's interesting. The world really slowed down when I quit coffee, and I was just surprised how fast I was going. And it was not easy. Like, I've been drinking 3 double shot lattes a day for years. And, it took 6-7 weeks, 6-ish weeks to get my personality back. Aside from just, of course, your typical caffeine withdrawal, all that other stuff. And what was interesting is I quit on Friday intentionally so I could trade on Monday. And on that Monday, I blew my very first funded account. Never done that. And it was a perfectly good account that I just traded into the ground, which is very unlike me. Sometimes I might tilt and go take a few bad losses unnecessarily, but I don't blow accounts like that. I just traded it straight into the ground within like an hour. And I looked back on that like later that day and I'm like, oh, I shouldn't be trading while I'm with resetting from caffeine. That was still withdrawals 3 days later. So I can look back on that and laugh now. I finally blew my first funded account because I quit caffeine. Anyway, just recommending for anyone. It made a big difference in my life. I'm really excited to see what happens going forward. I just have level energy all day long, a lot more motivation, even more, like I'm already pretty disciplined, pretty motivated, and I have even more now. There was a huge dip. Like I felt super depressed for about 2 or 3 weeks, and struggled to do a number of things other than just the basic fundamentals. But that depression stage is part of the withdrawal process. And a lot of people report like week 6, 7, and 8, they feel better than they did prior to the coffee. And that's true for me too. Like I can't ever see myself drinking coffee again. Like I just doesn't make sense. I was so tired and I would have these swings of being, super up and then super down. Never do it again. I sure do love, like the thing I miss is I love them. Like I spent years perfecting like espresso and how to press it and just get this beautiful tasting espresso. Like I'd go to a coffee shop, like doesn't matter, a local coffee shop or a Starbucks, and their espresso tasted like piss water to me. Just to say how much I put into my coffee presses. So that's all I miss. I miss the taste. And the chai doesn't quite fill it, but it's about as close as it gets. So I'm pretty stoked about that right there. Just trusting my gut. And this is also what I kind of saw in my testing data. So in my back testing, I'll find setups and I'm like questioning them, and I'm just documenting whether or not they worked out. So far, 73% of them or something do not work out. And then that means 27% of them do. So here's another data point for that. So what then? Well, we have New York lunch low. And I think for me, previous day low, if we can get price to come down into previous day low, I might have an opportunity for a long. Oh, shoot, I'm not recording, or at least not recording locally. There we go. Record. I'm streaming, I'm just not recording. I gotta fix that. All right, so YM is kind of sideways. Let me zoom over to the 1 hour. I mean, there's these 1 hour lows. Here's some relative equal lows. There's no inefficiencies though, so we're coming into discount of this range without inefficiencies. That's kind of got me spooked out. We can see YM is deciding to take off again. ES is synced up with NQ, flipping this in fair value gap again. So all these equal lows. Here is this fair value gap on ES, so maybe it comes down into there. Previous day equilibriums in discount. So we have ES has some stuff in discount. I like ES better. NQ, I just don't see it until it takes some more lows. So it looks like this gap at this point is remaining. We can just probably assume in the next 12 minutes it's going to close as a fair value gap. This inversion is not doing anything. This is not great price action. This is the kind of price action that's meant to take your money. Which is why I'm being super cautious. I know I'm always cautious, but I also know when to be cautious. And I'm green on the week too, so I've traded through this garbage. So let's see here. Come back over here to the 1 minute. So we can see gaps forming to the downside, some BISIs, or excuse me, SIBIs, sell side imbalances, these here. We can also see, you know, this order block right there. And ES is in sync, coming down. YM is still decoupled, doing its own thing. You know, there was a short here. I'll look at this in a second. I want to see what's going on down here. See, this actually looks like on the lower time frame a much nicer setup. Don't really have a clear SMT. Same thing. It's like, here's this previous week's equilibrium that keeps tapping into. I can't trust that. So here we don't have a fair, we have ES tapped into a fair value gap. So if anything, ES would be this right here. Two volume imbalances, but there's no SMT. SMT is questionable. Meaning it's not like how I like to see it between swing points. You can make SMT about anywhere if you just cherry pick candles. All right, so I was talking about this short. And this was potentially a valid trade that with this candle, I wouldn't have taken this. With this candle reaching down for all this liquidity and closing back, I wouldn't have taken that. So here's a short that was valid, but candle wick would have spooked me. Where's 1 hour on this? So here's 1 hour is about right there. So thinking in terms of narrative is kind of how I back my trade decisions, right? Like we have these criteria that we look for, which are the model, but then we have bias, which is the direction that the trade you want to go, or you long or you short. But then we have narrative, which is the why and the how. Like, why should it do that? Does it have logic behind it? How do you think it's going to do it? That's where I'm struggling today, is on the narrative. Like if we go to the 4 hour, like my narrative here is like, well, I don't have anything. There's nothing on NQ. There's this 4 hour low. That's it. That's not a ton. Just my narrative is these equal highs look juicy, but I don't see anything in here to go from here to there. In my opinion, this looks more likely to come down into here, and then later on, next week, maybe go for those equal highs. Not that it can't do whatever it wants. Like, why did it stop right here without taking that high? There's no level there. I don't know. Just did. I mean, there's probably some level there on like the 1 minute, 5 minute kind of thing that it chose to turn around at. Whereas over on ES, I can see the narrative. I can see, yeah, here's this fair value gap on the 4 hour, this inefficiency come down into here, rebalance this to at least 50% or so, and continue. That makes sense. Given the currently bullish order flow. The other narrative would be, here's the accumulation zone, like this. Here's a manipulation, and it wants to come for these relative equal lows. But I wouldn't assume that until, well, for one, a higher time frame level's been hit, but there's nothing up here. This is just all-time highs, right? So I'm not going to short all-time highs. So that's the narrative part. And oh, looking over here. So here was another failed model, right? The model failed. The narrative wasn't there. Now the short played out, is sometimes your model does. I couldn't, so the narrative on that would have been more like this. So we had come into this fair value gap and filled this inefficiency. And we're distributing for all the liquidity down in here, right? But for me to switch my bias, I need a little bit more. Like nothing on the daily is telling me to start being bearish quite yet. This huge wick from yesterday, tail, combined with a close above this body, at least it didn't close above this high, relative equal highs. So this to me bullishly, for me, is a bullish signature from a significant liquidity grab to sell side and then to deliver to buy side. But we can see how deep it's retracing into the rejection block here on the daily. It's the 50%. So the rejection block is a large tail like this. And it can come down into the 50% level. And like I said earlier, it created this volume imbalance, which a large volume imbalance like that is not very common. We see here's these little ones right down here, a little more common. That's huge volume imbalance. So I'm kind of expecting price to come down somewhere into here and continue up bullishly. It's Friday, so I guess we can consider the TGIF hypothesis too, which this whole week has pretty much been sideways. So how do you, I don't even know how to look at a TGIF when it's pretty much sideways. Is it retracing 30% this way, 30% to this way? I don't know. So can't help. That doesn't help. All right. Going back down here. Let's go to the 15-minute. 15-minute closed a C2 candle, which would have been which is a bullish signature. But it don't want no bullish delivery. All right, so we have, so here's another fair value gap. Here's another order block. New York lunch low has been taken. Over there. So we have all these lows below. Pair of equal lows right here. Maybe we'll mark those. So we works bearish order flow, minus order flow, bearish order flow. So at this point, I don't think I want to even pay attention to the 1 minute on ES and YM. Isn't necessary. All right, we're gonna create a little another fair value gap possibly. Yep, so that became a fair value gap. New York lunch low was taken. Have any SMTs? So we do have a few SMTs. I like this indicator that draws SMTs for me, session SMT. It doesn't catch them all, but it catches probably 90%. And it's just that much less looking I have to do. And maybe if I wanted a long in here and it didn't show an SMT, then I would manually look to see if I could find one that it didn't find. So I like the indicator. It is paid. It's a one-time fee. It's like 65 bucks. So super affordable for an indicator. There's a link below the video if that's something you're wanting. I like it. It's the only paid indicator I actually would care to tell people to invest in. It was very much worth my time to save my time drawing these SMTs, especially when I'm in a bit of a rush to get into a trade, or I'm tight on time rather to get into a trade. I don't like to rush into trades. And sometimes I'm tight on time. Sometimes they happen really quickly. Like yesterday, it happened so quickly I couldn't even adjust my contracts and get in with the right number of contracts. So I under leveraged that trade. All right, so we've taken these minor equal lows. Maybe we'll create some kind of gap. Here's a tailless candle. And next stop is going to be this previous day low. So here's the gap. And when we draw fair value gaps, we include the volume imbalance right there. The volume imbalance is the space between the two bodies. So lots of SMTs. I'm just going to turn the indicator off because they're not going to help me at this moment. Probably extending that gap down like that. All right, so here looks like it might close above this inversion. I still don't see this. There's no significant enough level right here for me. We have lots of targets. There's volume imbalances. So outside of the macro anyways, I'm going to go grab something real quick. Because I'm not interested in anything right here. I want to see it come down here. Nothing, huh? Now, even then, I kind of don't want to long the previous day low. Because I think that could be against order flow. Just my gut telling me you're going to get stomped on. There's so much liquidity below it. And I'm just like looking here saying, well, takes this low, these lows, there's just so much. Is it actually going to reverse here? And we can assume in a bullish market that when we go below previous old lows, that it is a manipulation, just like this one. But I don't know. We'll see when we get there. Excuse me, I got my breakfast. So here's the hard part of trading, the waiting. The patience. Patience pays. Waiting is a trader's true craft. All right, it's 10:20. That means we're in the 10:20 to 10:40 macro, Hydra macro, not an ICT macro. Anticipating some kind of fair value gap probably here. Maybe not. Little tiny one, I guess. Itty bitty. So that liquidity pool is taken. So now part of the narrative for a long down in here would be the morning sellers are in profit, so price should come up against them to take them out. They're trailing their stops all along here. We have some very nice trend line liquidity right here with very few internal manipulations. So this does look primed for a long. I'm not gonna lie, I'm hesitant. I don't know if I trust it. So one contract is 70-ish risk. This is very similar to yesterday, where it took a low, it created all this inefficiency above, Or it didn't take the low, actually. It just came right below it. I longed it, and it just rocketed for like 8R. So yesterday did the same thing. I believe it was just a straight sell off until about 10:30 in the morning, or sometime 10, I forget, for a long. But I feel like this is against the order flow. It's not even looking like it wants to invert that gap. This is where I was saying we have all these levels that it might want to just run down into. Oh, wow. Volume imbalance, a daily volume imbalance. Oh, it's already been used though. Okay, well, never mind then. I was going to say, and then we also do have a daily, well, we have this volume imbalance down in here. We have this daily fair value gap. I don't want to mess up my chart with too much stuff. I'm happy that, I'll show you over here. I'm happy that right, I'll be happy if it closes or does something down in here, because this last week has just been this kind of like brutal range on the daily, and order flow is not really engaged. Come down into here, and then we can start moving and have some clarity again. So even if I don't get a trade in today, I'm happy of how today's playing out, hopefully. Unless it wicks back up into here, and then in which case I will be kind of like, well, okay. But I think we'll get some more clarity after today. Something still feels off. I can't put my finger on it. There's SMT. We tapped into a previous day low. We took major liquidity. There's a daily volume imbalance. We made a new low for the week at this point in time. I have like 15 seconds to figure it out. Is my spidey sense right again? Yeah, so my spidey sense was right not to take along here, which is cool. Obviously, like shorts are on side. And but shorts are against higher time frame order flow. And so I'm not very interested in shorts. Now, it could close above here, create an order block. OF mas, which it looks like it kind of wants to. So let's see. Because a lot of people use the swing low as the stop. I don't. Actually, technically, my stop should have been this candle body right here. So like here, I could enter on this order block, and it's still pretty dang much, pretty much my model. I just still do not trust this price action. I wonder if it's going to start consolidating. And in this case, I will readjust this because that's what it should have been, like that. If there's any one trade I'm closest to pressing the button on, it's actually this one. But my gut still says don't take it. I just think I'm off sides. I think it wants more sell side delivery. Not that it hasn't done tons of damage. I mean, it fits the narrative. It's like, look at all the damage it's done to the buyers. Makes sense to come back up for some of these sellers. It looks to me like one of those days where it's wanting to behave a little differently. And it's just my gut telling me. I couldn't point to it on a chart. I could be wrong. I feel like YM hasn't done. We look at the 1 hour chart here. I feel like YM hasn't come down and done enough mitigation to this tailless candle, this gap. I feel like YM wants to come down more, and it might pull down NQ. I feel like ES is kind of coming down for these lows. There's no significant gap. We've already blown through the gap, right? This little tiny gap right here. I feel like ES wants lower, and I feel like it's just going to drag NQ lower, or at least cause it to consolidate. If say I got into a long here, maybe NQ consolidates while the other two continue to distribute to sell side and catch up. So, and already I can tell you that this is a no-go. You start consolidating, and then if we close like a candle up here, you don't take a trade in consolidation. So this is a no-go. If I see this many setups, it's like if I see this much failure in setups and not even giving much of a chance to go break even, that tells me it's time to walk away from the charts typically. That conflicts though with what I was listening to last night talking about the opportunity cost of not being in the charts. Well, that's true too. Like it could present a banger of a trade before my cutoff time at 12. And I don't have in my rules like what to do in this kind of situation. Price isn't consolidating. It's just, and I clearly say that, like if it's 15-minute, 1 hour consolidation, I don't trade. 5, 15, etc. My rules don't define days like today. How do you define it? There's just a lot of little things bugging me out. So since the high, opening range high, that's 1,300 ticks down, 322 handles down. We're outside of macro now. It's 42 after 10, New York time. All right. So I'm not going to long this. I also think it's going to consolidate. So I'm going to probably stop streaming here just because I don't see anything happening in the next 15 to 30 minutes probably that I'd be interested in. Maybe if it came down into some other levels, maybe. But at this point in time, I don't think I'm going to have a setup in the near future here. So I'm going to shut it down, take a break, and I'm going to come back to the charts after it does something. I just got a feeling that this is an accumulation phase that we're going to see right here. So I'm gonna shut it down there. And today's Friday.